Hi, good morning, and welcome to Opinions from Mary. This is my video number 4 on my breast cancer, which I do not have anymore. I know that. But anyway, let's get into details. I had my surgery done on November 8th or 9th, and oh my gosh, they took needles. I have photos of it, but I won't post them because it probably violates a bunch of like horrible stuff. They took needles and injected it into my nipple 4 times with some nuclear liquid, like nuclear as in radioactive. And supposedly that turned to like some blue color because my nipple had like dots, 4 dots. It's finally away, but it's been 3 months. And my breast is still sensitive and boy, anyway, so they injected this in, and yes, it was painful. Yes, it was. Anyway, and that's supposed to go to the tumor and then also to the lymph nodes so that they know what to cut out. And anyway, they did the surgery, and when I was in recovery, right before they went under, I had to go to the bathroom, and they said, no, it's too late. You're already on the table. So I guess they stuck a catheter in me and, relieved that liquid anyway. But yeah, that didn't feel too comfortable afterwards. Anyway, you could tell they did something. I guess I gave my permission to do that, although I don't remember ever doing so. But anyway, so they wanted to keep me overnight. They wouldn't release me, and I said, why? And thought this was outpatient. And they said, no, this is, you might have a problem and, you might die. And I said, what? And they said, oh, yeah, it happens. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I says, look, if there's something wrong, I'll just call 911. I'm okay. And they're like, no, 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 you probably won't have time. So my friend who drove me was like, no problem. She'll come stay with me. And God bless Shauna. She took it very seriously. She got up in the middle of the night and checked on me, make sure I was okay. And boy, what a lovely human being. And I was so blessed to have her in my life for that. But anyway, obviously I survived that and I'm okay. Then I had an appointment with the oncologist that was assigned to me, and this guy wanted to put me on chemo like immediately, then radiation, okay, and then 9 years of a pill. And I was like, what? I says, from why? I says, why do you want to do that right now? Don't you want to wait for the Oncotype? Because my surgeon asked for an Oncotype. And what Oncotype is it tells you how a tumor responds to chemotherapy. Anyway, this oncologist told me, no, from now on, I see nobody except him. I'm not to see my surgeon anymore. And I thought, what the heck is this? So he did ask me some medical questions. He asked me about my family and, who was living or whatever. My brother had testicular cancer, and my mom died from kidney failure. Well, actually, she died because she decided not to do dialysis anymore, but, she decided it was her time to go. She wanted to go. And my father, he died from myelodysplasia. Now, myelodysplasia back in, this was like 1984. It was very rare, and it was a blood disorder to where your blood doesn't clot. So my dad had really good insurance. I want to say Travelers insurance. And anyway, so they treated him for leukemia, which isn't what he had, but they maxed out his insurance and then he died. But what they did to him was actually horrible. I mean, they took him to death. He was at Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago, who had a good reputation. I'm just being honest about my own interpretation, and let me preface what I'm saying here. These are my own personal beliefs of the experiences that I've had and how I would have done things differently. Okay, but this is obviously not the way the world works. So anyway, my dad, he tried whatever. They had no cure, and so he tried the leukemia, and he never got out of the hospital. And they took him to death, brought him back to life, took him to death, brought him back to life. This went on for 4 months, and then all his insurance benefits ran out, and they said, hey, there's nothing else we could do for him. So, figure it out from there. But, yeah. not good. Anyway, I miss my father. But anyway, where was I on this? Okay, so I meet with the oncologist, and he wants me to do chemotherapy, and he's going to have a port put in me right away. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't even have the test results back. And he says, no, you're not to see your surgeon anymore. From now on, it's just me. I thought, oh, yeah, right. Anyway, and then also he wanted me to have radiation after the chemotherapy. And I said, why? I says, why would you do that if there's nothing there, you haven't even seen the test results, okay? Anyway, he says, no, he says, if you don't want to have radiation, you should have had a mastectomy. I was like, what the heck is this? And then 9 years on a pill. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because you have grade 3. Well, I've since found out that grade 3 is a visual analysis. So one person, it's not an actual, I mean, it's a test, but it's a visual where they look, okay, and then someone assigns a score to it. So I left there really disgusted with this guy, but totally freaked out. And he wanted me on 3 different chemo drugs. So I wrote those down, came home, did some research, and found out, now this was interesting, when he asked about my dad, and I mentioned myelodysplasia, and that's where his blood wasn't clotting. And, platelets or whatever weren't forming. So he said, oh, something along the lines like, oh, he had migraine headaches. And I thought, no, that's not what my dad had. And it was a blood disorder. It had nothing to do with headaches. Anyway, I had no confidence in this guy whatsoever. But I went home, did my research, and found out that some of these drugs, the side effects were hepatitis C, so like where it damaged your liver, and also myelodysplasia. And I thought, what the heck? Why would he even want me to take these chemo drugs when it runs in my family? I mean, this is like a known side effect there. Anyways, I had no confidence in this guy at all. And as far as the hepatitis C, now my friend Mimi, God bless her, let's say a prayer for her. She is going through ovarian cancer, and she is doing chemotherapy. And she's having a lot of relapses. Every time I talk to her, there's an issue. But she told me to have the cancer marker test CA125. So I asked this oncologist, I says, look, why don't you at least look and see if I still have cancer? I says, because quite frankly, I'm still freaked out that I do. I mean, I feel great, no symptoms. The only time I had a symptom was after the biopsy. That's when I found a lump. Up until then, nothing. And he says, no, he says, that's for ovarian cancer, CA125. He says, you want to have CA2729. That's for breast cancer. So I said, well, do the CA2729 for breast cancer. He said, no, it's too late. You've already had the tumor removed, so it does no good. And I says, what do you mean does no good? If it's running around in your blood, just do the test anyway, and see if I have those markers. Well, he objected, but I guess he did the test anyway because I went in for my blood test. And another thing he tested for was, he said, and I appreciated this part, was he said that, how do I know I don't have hepatitis C? Now, back in 1999, before there was a cure for hepatitis C, I did have hepatitis C, and I was given 6 months to live. And obviously that was like over 20 some years ago. But there is a cure. There's always a cure for everything. And it turned out that there was a cure back then for hepatitis C, which is now available. But back then they had to get safety data. And I went to Mayo Clinic and because a friend said, stay away from the doctors around here. Go to Mayo Clinic. So I went there, and they needed to get safety data for the FDA. And I was one of 7 candidates who got this treatment, which was pretty horrible actually, but obviously I survived. And so now there is a cure for hepatitis C. Interesting. But back then there wasn't. It was a horrible death. But now those markers for hepatitis C, they still show up in my blood. And so when they did the surgery, they look, I guess for people my age, they test for hepatitis C, and so the markers came out very high. And according to this oncologist, he was telling me that, oh, I'm sure I have hepatitis C, and it's probably deteriorating my body, and it's like, and then he was talking about how this cancer probably metastasized into my bones. I mean, it was like a horrible experience. Anyway, so I went home and did all this homework, and decided I'm going to get healthy, and bought all kinds of books on alternative medicines and how to get healthy and cure this, cure that. very busy reading, and that's why I haven't been here. This really has consumed a lot of my time. So anyway, I started a detox program to clean all the toxins out of my body. And I did find out a couple of things, which for me are relative, so let me pass those on to you. Vitamin D, B12, most people are deficient in those items. And so I have been taking D3 and B12 supplements. But another thing that people are deficient in is iodine. And I always crave salty foods. And I don't know if it's because, there's a minimal amount of iodine, not enough that your body needs. But since I got some iodine liquid supplements to put just 2 drops in my water, I'm not craving that salt anymore. Very interesting. But supposedly iodine deficiency causes cancer. And another thing, I was a bread-aholic. I mean, I could sit down and eat a whole loaf of bread, like at least breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That is how much I love bread. Well, I also found out that bread nowadays, all bread has bromine, bromine in it. And I guess bromine is a known breast cancer carcinogen. So anyway, I gave up all the bread. I went on a vegan keto, quote unquote, sort of refined diet where it's mostly vegan, but I'm watching my carbs and I'm trying to keep my carbs down to 60 carbs, 100 at the most per day. I mean, it's hard to do for someone who, is vegan and loves to eat. I'm one of those eat to live. Yeah, live to eat. Yeah, there's a live to eat and eat to live. I'm the one who enjoys eating always. So, but I have been going through detox, and I did notice that just cutting out, lots of carbohydrates and what have you, and taking more supplements to get healthier. Oh my gosh, for about a month I was nothing but just like blowing my nose every few minutes, and that's past, thank goodness. And I also am doing intermittent fasting, which I found was very good. And that's where I only eat like a couple hours throughout the day so that my body can digest that food and then take the rest of its energy and be able to clear out toxins. Anyway, that said, my appointment with this oncologist, my next appointment with this oncologist was I did go see my surgeon. And my Oncotype test results, this is what came back, where I'm glad I saw her, was that I would benefit less than 1% from chemotherapy. So, okay, good for me. And then also, supposedly there was a tumor that they did find, but they didn't analyze it further because Quest Diagnostics had already analyzed it, so why do that? And it's the way I read the report, it seemed very suspicious. It's like, well, do I really have a tumor, or are you just covering ass for the industry? Okay, so I didn't understand why they didn't do their own analysis on it, and they just said, hey, we're not going to do any analysis on it because it's already been done. But all of the surrounding tissue around it, negative. And they were supposed to take out 1 lymph node. They took out 2, negative. So no cancer. Well, anyway, this oncologist, my next appointment with him was on January 30th. And that's where it was on December 28th. That's right, December 28th. And I just felt like horrible that day from doing the detoxing. And I thought, if I got a virus, I don't want to go there because it's a cancer clinic and there's some really sick people there. Even though I thought it was just detox, I was just too weak and I didn't want to deal with this guy anyway. So I called to cancel my appointment for December 28th, and they rescheduled it to January 30th, which I thought was great because I had a January 30th appointment with my primary care doctor. Well, guess what? They canceled my appointment. They made an appointment for the oncologist for January 30th, which was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and my primary care provider appointment was in the morning, so there would have been no problem me seeing both, and that's what I actually planned to do. They canceled my primary care appointment. Like, how dare they? And so anyway, January 30th rolled around, and I called, say, hey, how come I haven't got my reminder call to come see my primary care? I got the reminder call to go see the oncologist, and I called, and they says, oh, yeah, no, on December 28th, that was canceled. I was like, what? So I had to and to get in to see my primary care, it takes a couple of weeks unless it's an emergency. So now I'm scheduled to see him on February 23rd. Anyway, January 30th, I went and I saw this primary care doctor. And he's like, oh, you need to do chemo and radiation. I said, but why? I says, I've done the research. I says, and not only that, my Oncotype results are coming back to be less than 1%. So why would I want to do chemo if I'm not going to benefit from it anyway? And he says, well, you're grade 3. And I says, but grade 3 is a visual to where someone just like assigns a number to it. It's like there's no hard, fast rule to that. And I says, I'm sure there's protocols, but if my Oncotype is saying no, why? And he just got obnoxious. Like he wouldn't even let me talk. He just started babbling on about it's grade 3 and that's what you need to do. And I says, look, first I want to thank you. He did do a CT scan and that all came back negative. I don't have bone cancer or any of that other stuff. And he did test for my hepatitis, and it turns out, no, I don't have hepatitis. Those markers are just my body's natural way of fighting that. And he did run the CA2729, and it turns out that CA2729, if you're less than 38, that is normal. My marker is at 17, and 17 is much less than 38, okay? Like more than half less than 38. Anyway, so I asked him, I says, these results, and he just wouldn't listen. I says, okay, stop. Stop. Let me at least ask you this question. I says, here's my question. I says, I believe I know the answer would be no, but I want to ask you anyway. If you had the same disease that I have with the same test results, and I says, and I hope you at least looked at my test results, would you have chemo? Oh my gosh, he got outraged. He says, "Oh, it's not up to me. It's all about you, and it's all grade 3, and that's what you're supposed to do." And I says, "No, that's not the question. The question is, if you were me with the same results, would you have chemo?" And he got livid. I mean, he just like started babbling on, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this guy's going wild." Anyway, so I said, "Okay." I says, "Fine. Don't answer that question." I says, "Answer this question for me." And I looked him right in the eyes, and I says, for me, it's important for me to have an oncologist that puts God first. Could you recommend one, please? And he looked at me when I said that, and he says, I don't know anyone. And I said, well, I says, that's important to me. I says, it's important to me to, honor God, okay? And so what do we do here? He just said, that's it. You just go find someone else. And then he left. He abandoned me in the room and left. And I thought, that's fine. I don't want to deal with this guy anyway. So I'll go see my primary care doctor February 23rd, and we'll kind of take it from there. And I'll try to find someone else who I might have some confidence in. Anyway, that said, right before I did this videotape, I got a phone call from the radiation department, okay? And it turns out this oncologist, just a couple of days ago, so my appointment with him was January 30th. On February 2nd, he put in the request for radiation treatments. I tell you what, from the research I'm doing, radiation is actually worse on your body than these chemotherapy drugs. So honestly, I told the lady, I said, no, she got really nasty. She wasn't happy to hear that. Your attitude was, like, take this finger, I guess take the finger in the middle, read between the lines. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of like what her attitude was to me. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. I am doing a lot of reading. I'm putting my faith in God. I truly believe, and I know this is true, every single one of us was created to be perfect. And in some of the readings that I've done, basically, our body is the best doctor around. It knows how to cure and treat stuff. It's up to us to get rid of the interference. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to take the advice of my primary care physician, because him I trust. But in the meantime, I'm doing everything to detox, to stay healthy. I'm looking into supplements. There's a lot of information out there on people who have cured different types of cancers. There's alternative treatment centers around the world, not here in the United States, but around the world that are claiming success. Financially, I'm not in that position to, come up with the money to give it to them. If I had it, I would. Why not? Make it easy for you. So I'm going to have to do it on my own. So any recommendations that anyone has, great. I'm in Las Vegas. I have United Healthcare as my primary insurance, and if you know of a good oncologist that puts God first and actually looks at the results and treats the patient and looks at their test results, I think that would be really wonderful to know who that is, and feel free to leave a comment below. Once again, opinionsfrommary@gmail.com is my email. And God bless all of you. And any of you who are going through this nightmare, what a traumatic experience. My heart goes to you. And that's what I'm saying. I'm putting my faith in my Creator. And that's where I'm at. And so I wish that for all of you too. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.